Welcome to this week's episode. I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Lloyd.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is...
And hopefully you folks out there in the aviation world have some more of your products or services. Easy to use.
Absolutely. I know, you say it so often, you'd think it would just roll
off the tongue, right? Sure.
Right. Okay, so this is actually the second part in a four-part series that we put together for larger organizations in the aviation and aerospace industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have both worked for large organizations.
Some of the largest.
Yeah. And we know some of the pros and cons about working for large organizations. There are some huge, huge advantages. There are also some complexities.
That's being nice.
Right. So I think one of the cool things about a large organization is that you and I both have worked for large organizations that have had what we call high-performing teams.
Yes.
In those organizations. And that kind of takes some of the benefits of being a small organization and puts it in the middle of a large organization, right? Yeah. So what are some of the symptoms of being in a high-performance team?
Well, once the goals are given to you, people in a high-performing team situation meld together and it becomes very fluid and stuff gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff gets done faster and more easily and more efficiently than you would ever expect.
Exactly. And that happens because people trust each other, because people understand, what the big picture is. There's been a really clear communication of this is what the goal is, and everybody is on board with what happens if the goal is met or not met, right? Mm-hmm. And, everybody kind of picks up the slack of what needs to be done because, everybody's an expert in their own area, that they don't necessarily have to know what each other is doing because there's a pretty high level of trust, right?
Right. Extreme high level of trust.
Exactly. So that's what happens when it works right. What happens when it doesn't work is a lot of what we're seeing now. I was just reading a Gallup poll that said 50% of employees in the United States feel like they are disengaged. They call that quiet quitting. The way they define it is people who do the minimum amount of work required and are psychologically detached from their job.
Well, yeah. I didn't experience that anywhere I was.
Right. I have seen people do that. And honestly, I have done that. But I've been working for organizations where I didn't feel aligned with the company's goals and objectives. And so it was usually just for a week or two while I was on my way out. I was looking for other jobs and things like that. So I understand the phenomenon. And, it's basically when what they hired you for changes. A lot of times that happens where a company is acquired, the mission changes, and you missed a turn somewhere, or they missed a turn and didn't let this is where we're going, and that's not where you want to go, then those things happen. So the problem is not remote work. The problem is not being acquired. The problem is not that it's a large organization. The problem is not that you have bad people. And the problem is not that good people are impossible to find.
So you told me what it is not.
What is it? It is that your good people either don't know what the mission is or don't know how to support it and don't know how to support each other.
So that's lack of communication?
That is lack of what we call a team formation. Okay. So this can happen informally or it can happen formally. Our specialty is doing it formally, making it happen, literally. We go in to an organization when we're doing this, and we basically talk to all of the stakeholders involved, right? And we find out what the mission is. What is the mandate from the organization? What is this team hired to do? What are they paying them for, right? And how can we make sure that mission is communicated very, very well. Goals is a breakdown of that. Objectives is an even further breakdown of that. So, in the last episode, you talked about the manager climbs a tree to see the forest the CEO climbs an even bigger tree to see all of the forests. This is a situation where you are able to communicate from the big tree to the shorter tree to the guy on the ground who's chopping the trees down, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy on the ground chopping trees down knows that we're intending to clear this forest for this purpose, right? And so then he knows and he's engaged and he feels like he's contributing to a larger whole. He's part of something bigger than himself. We all want that, right? We all want to be supporting each other. He knows who's bringing him water. He knows who's sharpening his saw. He knows who is doing all the other jobs that are supporting him, and he appreciates them because they make his job easier. And he appreciates the manager and the CEO because they're telling him what's going on, right?
Yeah, high-performing teams are relatively rare.
Rarer than they should be, but not,
But teams in a general rule are everywhere.
Right. So, team formations is a pretty specific strategy that we can go in. And, the interesting thing is it's hard to do this in your own organization because it seems like you have an ulterior motive, no matter who you are in the organization. You've got lots of chiefs and no Indians, in these kinds of situations. Everybody thinks they know better than you do what's going on. So if we go in as a third party and say, you tell us what's going on, you tell us what your concerns are, you tell us what you want to know in order to do your job better, we can help facilitate that communication among the group.
We've done this in large, in this day and age of multi-trillion-dollar companies, I guess multi-billion-dollar companies are not really large.
Well, multi-billion is probably big enough for the aviation industry.
We've had multi-billion, multi-state firms before, so.
Right. So, it doesn't have to be all in the same place. It's easier if we can do this at least once, all in one place. Mm-hmm. But, the main thing is about communication.
Yes.
So it can be done remotely. We prefer to do it in person, but we can do it remotely as well.
Exactly.
Team formation usually takes anywhere from days to weeks, depending on how large the organization is.
And how many teams you need to form.
How many teams you need to form and how profound the issues are. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, this is something that we love to do because you can go back 6 months later and see a huge difference in the performance of a high-performing team versus all of that, where people are quiet quitting, people are unhappy. No good comes from that. Not for the employees, not for the organization, not for the customers. You can tell when you're talking to somebody who's disengaged, It's soul killing, for everybody involved. So, we really do think that it is everybody's, in everybody's interest to be engaged in what you're spending 40 hours of your week doing, or however many hours of your week doing. Probably more than that for most of us. Anyway, so team formation is something that we do. And, typically for sales and marketing organizations, there's a ton of different org charts that will work for a sales and marketing organization. Whether those are separate divisions, whether they're together, doesn't really matter. The org chart doesn't matter nearly as much as the team formation. Right. Make sense?
Yeah, because you can do what they call cross-functional teams. So there lots of different varieties.
Exactly. And what's really funny is to watch some it's not funny, it's actually heartbreaking, to have some organizations try to solve this problem by redrawing the org chart.
Oh, yeah.
And then they redraw the org chart a few weeks later, and then they redraw the org chart a few months later.
The first known major contributor to, I'll say, team formation, high-performing teams, was Gallup and Northern.
Yeah.
Way back in the day when they instituted the intermodal system.
Mm-hmm. Where they take containers off of ships and put them directly onto trains.
Or trucks.
And then directly onto trucks.
Or from trucks directly on trains. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a real thing. They found that what they call high-performing teams got so much more done in less time, less consternation. Mm-hmm. They were amazed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so were we in a couple of situations.
Right. Exactly. And to be honest, I do think that a lot of the problems in the aviation industry are caused by people who are not talking to each other, people who are disengaged. So, and that causes real problems. I mean, like life-threatening problems, not just, um, people who are checked out and not enjoying their life. It is actually causing life-threatening safety issues and things because things aren't being communicated. So we'd really love to prevent that.
Yes.
And we'd really love to help create more high-performing teams in the aviation industry.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Ciao.